Hi all, Wise Wolf here, and welcome back to another episode of New Harbour Wildlife Reserve. Today is the pinnacle of the Sub-Saharan Walk, introducing the West African lion and the last species in this area of the zoo. I'll be the first to admit I'm not openly impressed about how this specific habitat turned out. I've definitely done a much better West African lion habitat in Anima Zoo, which if I can afford to and remember to get a clip of that, it'll be up on the screen somewhere about now. If I forget to, or the lag is just too much, then I'm just spouting random nonsense. But anyway, enough about that. Today's topic is the West African lion. The Panthera leo is a subspecies of lion found primarily in the savannas and grasslands of West Africa. This subspecies is smaller and more endangered compared to its relatives in other parts of Africa. Historically, the West African lion roamed across a wide expanse of the region, from Senegal to Chad, but its population has dwindled significantly due to habitat loss, human-wildlife conflict, and poaching. As of now, the West African lion is primarily confined to a few protected areas, including the W National Park, which straddles the borders of Niger, Burkina Faso, and Benin, and the Niokolo-Koba National Park in Senegal. It is estimated that only about 250 to 300 individuals remain in the wild. As mentioned, West African lions are generally smaller than their East and Southern African counterparts. Males typically weigh between 110 to 160 kilograms, while females are slightly lighter at around 70 to 115 kilograms. Their coats are tawny yellow, and males tend to have a less pronounced manes compared to lions from other regions. Sometimes they have very minimal or no mane at all. This adaptation is thought to be linked to the hotter, more arid climate of West Africa. Much like all lion subspecies, West African lions live in prides. A pride typically consists of related females, their offspring, and one or more adult males. Females usually handle most of the hunting, which they do cooperatively, while males defend the pride's territory. The smaller, fragmented lion populations in West Africa face the challenge of limited genetic diversity, which raises concerns about inbreeding and the health of future generations to come. The West African lions primarily prey on medium to large-sized herbivores. Their typical diet includes warthogs like pumba, antelopes, buffalo, and zebra. Lions hunt primarily in the early morning or late afternoon, using stealth and teamwork to ambush their prey. They may also scavenge from other predators like hyenas and wild dogs when the opportunity arises. As you can see on screen now, the lions have been introduced to their new habitat. This will allow me to get the terrain details correct and add the correct amount of plants. And as I said before, I do prefer animas to this one. But the reason why this one is so big is if the complexity meter allows it in the future, once the rest of the zoo is complete, there will be many more lions added into this habitat. As many lions as it can hold, with potential upgrades to the hard shelter, because that'll definitely be too small for a large pride of lions. Back to the educational talk on lions though. Lions have a gestation period of about 3 to 5 months, and females typically give birth to 1 to 4 cubs. Cubs are born blind and totally dependent on their mothers for the first few months. As they grow, they begin to integrate into the pride and learn vital survival skills like hunting and socializing. There are many conservation challenges that the West African lions faced, with several significant threats. The first one being habitat loss and fragmentation. Agriculture, deforestation, and urban expansion have destroyed large portions of the lion's habitat, leaving populations confined to small, isolated areas. The second problem is poaching and human-wildlife conflict. Poaching and retaliatory killings by farmers or herders whose livestock to the lions are major threats. These lions are sometimes seen as a danger to livestock, leading to people wanting to kill them. The third one is genetic bottlenecking. With the isolated populations, the gene pool becomes limited, which increases the risks of inbreeding, which causes genetic disorders and reduced fitnesses. In combat to that, though, there are various conservation efforts being made to protect the West African lion. Protected areas and national parks, preserving key areas like the W National Park and Keokolokoba are critical. These areas are often protected by anti-poaching units to ensure the lions are safe from hunting. Lions do not recognize national borders, so transboundary conservation cooperation is essential. Initiatives like the West African Protected Areas Project bring together several countries to protect lions and other wildlife in the region. Community-based conservation involves local communities in conservation efforts. Programs that encourage peaceful coexistence between people and lions, such as compensation for livestock losses, education, and sustainable tourism, and helping to reduce conflict. On top of all that, there are the captive breeding programs. Some experts are exploring captive breeding to boost population numbers. However, these programs can be challenging because of inbreeding risks and the need for large genetically diverse populations. Despite all that, the future of the West African lion is uncertain. While there are some positive signs from ongoing conservation efforts, the subspecies is still endangered. Facing threats like habitat destruction, poaching, and genetic isolation, the remaining populations are small and fragmented, meaning continued efforts are necessary to prevent extinction. With sustained commitment, regional cooperation, and innovative solutions to mitigate human-wild conflict, there is hope that the West African lion can be preserved for future generations to witness. It's around this time in the video that you might notice that the habitat is basically finished. As you can see, it's not the nicest in New Harbour, and I will admit, I am very disappointed with how this one turned out. I'm just doing a few touch-ups to the backstage pathing. I don't know if you saw earlier in the video, but we did have an incident where guests were trespassing backstage, and off-screen I definitely did not try to feed any of said guests to the lions. That is definitely not something that happened. But yeah, as we finish up the habitat, you may notice there are two large areas that have a lot of nothing going on. So I'm just going to add in a little barrier up the top here to prevent them from getting on top of the hard shelter, which is something that they can't do anyway, but I just thought it would be nice. Then I add some fake grass to the top of the shelter just to break up that bland concrete look. And then I'll be back with voiceover in a few seconds for what comes next. Alright, time to fill in these blank spaces. I was going to build my own custom restaurant, but I figured the conservation restaurant was a good counterfeit, and I don't want the complexity meter to absolutely hate me, so I used pre-made, pre-built blueprints from the conservation pack to fill in the area. I know it's a little bit of a cheap move, but it's better than having the complexity meter be over 60 just for a goddamn restaurant. The blueprints in the conservation pack are probably some of my favorite, and that's why I like to use them. I don't know what happened there, but I accidentally deleted the restaurant, but it's all fixed now. I do add in a little bit of a pond in that little circular bit that has nothing going on for it as well, but you'll see that in a quick second. Alright, we're going to start off by using one of the aquatic pack pre-made blueprints, just to add a little bit of height variety and hide the restaurant from the vista point. That lion statue there is sort of a memorial to Majambi and Amani. I will probably add a plaque before I do the tour on the backside of that fountain just for Majambi and Amani. If you don't know who Majambi and Amani are, they are the Adelaide Zoo lions that in October 2024 were laid to rest after Majambi suffered a medical episode and Amani would have been mending a broken heart. If you notice that pause, I was actually about to say this year. I completely forget that we are now in 2025. Which, by the way, I hope you're having an excellent new year. I've had a bit of a rough start to the new year with a lot of heartbreak with animals at the shelter I volunteer at, but I'm not allowed to talk about that. As we approach the end of the video, I'd like to thank you for sticking around to the end. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. While I add the blueprints by Dino's Rule, the excellent console bird creator of fake birds and fake everything that isn't in Planet Zoo, I'd like to quickly talk about what comes next. The Southern Hemisphere Conservation Trail is expected to kick off on February 2nd with the Platypus Pond. I await January 29th for the Australia and South America pack to complete it, and have left space for the Quokka and Tasmanian Devil from the Oceania pack. I now want to leave you with the end cinematic, and I hope to see you next week for the grand tour.